Hi, my darlings. I'm Sophie Darling, and welcome back to episode 17 of Vinland Saga. If there are some random shaking that goes on in these videos, it is because the boy is now sitting with us in the room. Like that. He is a unit of a cat. It is a desk mounted cat bed. So every time he moves or grooms himself, the whole desk kind of shakes. So it kind of looks like a little mini earthquake is going on. But hopefully he will settle and go to sleep, and then we won't have much of an issue. That's if he doesn't want to leave the room, but he has decided that he likes this little bed. He likes sleeping in here with me, which means he won't be screaming outside the door when I'm filming anymore, and I will feel less guilty. So we'll maybe have a bit more footage of Mr. Sullivan in between shots because the show will cover him unless we put it down here again. I'm not quite sure. I'll figure that out in editing, but he will most likely be covered during the react. But for the intros and little in between discussions, you'll be able to get to see the little boy. He is so freaking cute, but he is hearing things right now. Go to sleep. Go to bed. He's a little baby. So my outro for episode 16 was a little bit rushed because I had a meeting with my mortgage advisor, which meant I was really pushed for time. He's going to sleep, but you can't see him in that direction. But he's so freaking cute. Like his little paw is here. You like curl up into a little ball and go to sleep. Sometimes he sleeps facing this way and sometimes he sleeps the other way, but he's just so cute. These little babies. So you'll just see a tail for the most part, which is fine. Back on track. My outro for episode 16 was a bit rushed. I had a meeting at 5 o'clock and the filming of the outro was like 5 to 5. So it was like as soon as I finished filming, I had to jump straight into this meeting and I was like, oh, so I was really rushed for time. So there wasn't a lot that I could really fit in to that time frame. And this isn't going to be a super long intro anyway, but there was just something I wanted to mention in relation to Askeladd's conversation with the Anglo-Saxon and about how the Anglo-Saxon refers to the Danes as monsters, and Askeladd coming back to this idea again that no one is a monster. All of them have committed the same crimes in terms of establishing dominance and settling in this land, just as the Anglo-Saxons pushed out the Romans and the Celtics. So essentially, the cycle is repeating itself. The Anglo-Saxons committed the same atrocities that they're now accusing the Danes of being monsters for, which is why Askeladd is saying there's no such thing as monsters. This is just the way of the world. This is just humanity in a nutshell. And we can think it's horrific and monstrous, but the Danes are not monsters because this was just common in that time period. It was not unusual for people to pillage and raid and to also settle in the lands that they invade. So as much as we think it's brutal, it was a different way of life back then to what it is in modern society. So we can't really put our modern thoughts and feelings onto this as it being wrong because it was so commonplace. It was so normalized. It wasn't just the Scandinavians essentially that were raiding and pillaging and trading and traveling. Numerous cultures were doing the same thing. But I've been listening to a really interesting history book about the Vikings, and it sort of delves into sort of the issue that crops up is that because of how close the Vikings are to the Roman period, there seems to be this romanticization of the Romans, whilst at the same time, then culturally demonizing the Vikings. So we see one as more cultured, as civil, and then we look at the Vikings as barbaric and brutal, and we sort of fall into this dichotomy of seeing them as one being better than the other because one was more civilized culture and one is more based on violence and bloodshed, but the Romans also decimated the native population. They also committed horrendous atrocities against the Celtics, and I know that the Celtics do end up living side by side with them, as mentioned in the show, at some point. But initially, when the Romans first arrived, they were not taken too warmly. They were treated as outsiders, as outcasts, much in the same way that the Danes and the Norse are when they're invading. But because the Celtics came to live alongside them, the Anglo-Saxons were then seen as the monsters because they were then the ones that were pushing the Celtics into Scotland and Wales. They were pushing them out of fertile land. They were killing them, decimating their culture, and they have committed atrocities too in turn. So the Vikings, what they're doing is not new. It is not inherently native to their culture. It's not something that we should only attribute to Vikings. Everyone was doing this at this historical time frame. As the Romans came and decimated the land, so did the Anglo-Saxons, and now the Danes and the Norse, and it is just a cycle that replicates. It happens routinely and repeatedly. The reason that the Vikings are probably the most talked about in relation to it is because they were the best at it. They weren't the only ones doing it. They were just the best at invading and raiding and in trading as well. A lot of the trade routes that were established and sort of the advancements that Britain and Ireland experienced in terms of gaining access to other things around the world was thanks to the Viking invasion. Of course, on the other hand, we don't romanticize them because of the brutal decimation of culture and the way in which they take over the land. But at the same time, there is a lot to be owed to the Viking invasions as well. They established trade routes. We gained some further knowledge in relation to tools and equipment that they used. We were able to unify under a single king in the face of the Vikings at one point. This probably doesn't come up in the show, but it is essentially thanks to the Vikings that Britain became a unified country. It stopped being individual feudal kingdoms all fighting amongst each other. They all sort of banded together under a single king, and that allowed them to gain dominance again, essentially, over the Viking invaders. But yeah, we sort of need to remember that, like, it wasn't unusual, it's not uncommon, that what they're doing is normal within the context of this historical time period, but also that every other culture that came before them that also invaded the British Isles and the Irish Isles did the exact same thing, which is why Askeladd laughs when they call him a monster. They call the Danes monsters because the Anglo-Saxons pushed his mother's people, half of himself, he's half Celtic, into Wales. They took their land. They slaughtered their people. He sees himself aligning with the Welsh, with the Celtic side, with his mother rather than his father, which is the Danish side. So it would be very easy for Askeladd to say that they're monsters because the Anglo-Saxons also targeted his people, his mother's people. But he doesn't, because he understands that this is just a historical cycle. It goes on and on and on. So he even acknowledges that in the conversation with Thorfinn. He was like, just as the Romans were pushed out, the Anglo-Saxons will be pushed out by us. And one day, someone will push us out, because that is just the way of the world. The strong devour the weak, and so on and so forth. But another interesting thing that the book mentioned that I didn't actually know about in the previous episode, when they say that Askeladd's luck has run out, it's because the Vikings or Viking culture actually believed that there were spirits of luck that could attach to you and could bless you, and that if misfortune falls upon you routinely, it is because luck has left you. Luck has run out. They have gone. I thought that was particularly interesting. I can't remember the exact terminology for it, but they mentioned it. I was listening to it as an audiobook, so I may not have picked up on things as clearly because I was working at the same time, because my hyperfixation means I need to learn about Viking culture now. But I just thought, oh, okay, is that maybe what they meant in relation to Askeladd when they said his luck has run out? I thought that was quite fascinating. But we know that there is a plot to steal Canute from Askeladd. We know that Thorkill is very close at hand. And I am excited to see how this all plays out. And if we're going to see Canute sort of stand up for himself. I know that he's going through like a horrible period at this moment in time. But I think if anyone can sort of remedy the situation and rally everyone together, it would be Canute. He's such a menace, though. He suspected this was going to happen, though. He's going to have a way to get out of it. Even Bjorn doesn't seem that phased. Which won't go down well, because they're not honorable if they desert Askeladd. Not happening. And Thorfinn's not going to allow anyone to kill Askeladd before him. So this is Lydia. Oh, look at little Askeladd. And he'll one day return. So was Askeladd also in the shed with his mother? Because we know his mother was put there, but did Askeladd also have to live there too? He's gonna tell them he hates the Danes, isn't he? Fuck's sake! Oh shit! God damn! I was gonna say, like, as much as Thorfinn hates Askeladd, he's still gonna stick by him. And Bjorn's not betraying Askeladd. Of course they were. It's Askeladd, like... Hot diggity damn! Thorkill's like, what the fuck's going on? Oh, do you think Thorkill's gonna be pissed off because he came here for a fight and the fight's gonna end before he even gets there? He really has no such luck. Let me in! He's such a child. I love it. The music is so good. I was about to say the horses are so good, but that's because I literally read it and my brain attached to the words. He's loyal to the end. Oh, no. The horse! The show keeps killing all the horses in front of me, and it makes me so fucking sad. Thorfinn's so fucking cool. He's not running away. He's gonna get Canute. Oh, you've pissed Bjorn off. No, not the mushroom. Not the berserker mushroom again. Oh, he's going back for Askeladd. Well, yeah, he doesn't want Askeladd to die before he can kill Askeladd. Holy shit, man.
やれやれ。年は取りたかねえもんだ。
He's so damn cool. Ooh!
脱出の好機を。大混乱になる。
And then he'll use it to slip away. Oh, fuck! Oh my god. That's a shit helmet.
つったりついカッとなっちまった。いやーすまんね。大きな声出しちゃって。さあおいで。おじさんもう怒ってないから。
They're scared.
東側のやつ下がれ。流れ矢に当たるぞ。トログリム仕切ってんとおめえが。だったらなんだ死に損ない。俺を人質にしておけばビョルンのやつは。
He's so clever. He's like, you do realize that if I'm dead, Bjorn's not gonna negotiate with you, and Bjorn has the prince. Oh my fucking god!
らしくねえぜ、アシェラッド。あんた、そんな必死な男じゃなかったろ。なんであんな腰抜け王子のために命をかけるんだ。
Because he believes in him.
と一緒に赤穴に入るつもりかよ。
I think deep down, he believes that Canute could be similar to Artorias in being kind and benevolent.
誠の王がアバロンからお戻りになられるのな。
So he's gonna establish a king himself. Thorfinn cares for Askeladd, I think, in a weird way.
おい、どうしたよう、楽しんでるかいお兄さんたち。
I think Thorkel isn't going to kill Askeladd because I think he's going to admire him.
困るな。お約束のない方、ちょっと。
Look at his little face. Thorkel's face is class. He's always so, like, giddy. Wow, they caved quick, didn't they? Thorkel's gonna see this as dishonorable. Oh, he's pissed. He wanted a fight.
俺はトルグリムってんだ。抵抗はしねえ。話を聞いてくれ。
He's so mad. He's like, pick that fucking axe up now.
俺たちはあんたに王子を引き渡そうと思ってたんだが。
Yeah, but he doesn't want to be given the prince. He wants to earn it.
とにかく王子のことは俺らに任せてくれ。オーディンの名にかけて必ず捕まえる。
He's like, I don't care about any of this. I came for a fight. Give me a fight.
なかなかの知恵者のようだな。トルフィンが見当たらねえんだけどさ。あんたが切っちまったのか。
No.
あいつは王子の護衛につけた。この反乱には加わってねえ。そうかい。 それを聞いて安心したぜ。アシ
Oh
ャラット以
God.
外はやってよし。
I told you. Because there's dishonor in what they've done. And they refuse to fight him.
獲物を拾いな。最後くれ戦士らしくしろよ。おめえらのために言ってんだぜ。丸腰で死んじゃバルハラに行けねえだろうがよ。
He's not wrong. He's given them the chance. Dying with honor is a big part of the culture, and if you refuse to do it, then... Ooh.
よしよし、こうでなくちゃ。俺たちを殺したら王子は手に入らねえぞ。
Yes, he will.
大丈夫。
Because he's with
捕まえるか
Thorfinn.
ら。
Well, he's not with Thorfinn, he's with Bjorn.
お前の斧かかってこいよ。戦士ならスカーッと気持ちよく死んでみろ。
Well, if it isn't all your chickens coming home to roost,
なんもかもてめえのせいだ。
it's not his fault, it's your
諦めろ
fault.
トルグリムよ。
If you would
お前はもう
listen to
死ぬん
him,
だよ。
none of this would be
絶対
happening.
に死ぬんだよ。さあ、来いよ。ほら。
Fuck, that's a menacing sight if I've ever seen one.
ああ、こりゃいかん。ちょっとプレッシャーかけすぎたか。ダメだこりゃ。中身が抜けてっちまった。
Has he had a heart attack? Hello?
なんだ。
Thorfinn. Look at him go!
トルフィン。
I love that Thorkill gets so excited every time he sees Thorfinn. He's like, my friend, my buddy, my playmate. He's gonna punch the horse, isn't he? Can they stop killing the horses, please?
アシュラットに手を出すな。そいつは俺の獲物だ。指一本でもそいつに触れたら殺す。
Even Askeladd is shocked that Thorfinn came back for
そい
him.
つに触れたら殺す。
バカだと思ってたが、ネズミがクマに喧嘩売ってやがる。お前のボスだろこいつ。
No.
ボスじゃねえ。アシュラットをこっちに渡せ。渡さなけりゃ殺す。
マジ？じゃあ渡さねえ。
He wants a fight.
お前たちが勝利
Oh,
だ。
fuck.
お前が勝ったら無事に逃がしてやろう。馬もおまけにくれてやる。
ロンドンの時みてえに行くと思うなよ。
おう、期待してるぜ。トールズ
The
の
music
息
is
子
so good.
戦士の一族の末よ。
The last in a line of warriors. Wow. Oh, I love the juxtaposition between Thorfinn bravely staring down Thorkill and the other guy that just literally died of fear in front of him. I think he died. He basically was like, he's no longer there. So I think he like must have had a heart attack or something from the sight of Thorkill. But the fact that he's willing to face him down without fear, without buckling, is showing just how far Thorfinn's willing to go to get his revenge. But I also love the fact that this is showing the complexity of their relationship dynamic. Askeladd and Thorfinn have a very uneasy relationship because obviously he is the reason for Thor's dying, and Thorfinn has obviously never forgiven him for that and wants to be the one to kill him as a means of revenge, right? But you can even see here that when he realizes that Askeladd isn't close behind, he makes the executive decision to go back for him. And you can chalk it up to it solely being that he doesn't want anyone else to kill Askeladd, only him. But that rage and anger at seeing what they had done to Askeladd isn't solely down to this desire for revenge. I think in some odd way, he does care for Askeladd, but he doesn't quite know how to understand the complexity of those feelings. Because it's not easy emotions to come to terms with. This is the person that you hate and despise, but I think there's also admiration and respect. And how do you reconcile having these two different perceptions of the one person? And I think that's where he sort of comes into conflict with himself at times. Obviously, he wants to kill Askeladd, but I think another side of him wants Askeladd to be okay because he does care for him. Not necessarily like he's a father, but in this time frame between Thor's dying and this situation, Asgard has been the closest parental figure to Thorfinn, and their relationship dynamic has been one of trust because even though he knows that Thorfinn wants to kill him, he doesn't trust him to do a lot of tasks that he couldn't trust anyone else to do. And it's always under the guise of, oh, well, he may not come back, right? He may die in the process and then I can like live a long life. But I think deep down he knows that he's not gonna die in the process. He tries to play off that he actually has care in turn for Thorfinn because again it would make him kind of look weak, but I think they do have a very complicated dynamic. I don't think it's solely hate. I think there's admiration and respect and not necessarily love, but definitely an aspect of trust, especially in that Thorfinn and Bjorn were the two that he asked to guard Canute, meaning they are the two closest to him, the two that he knows won't betray him in this task, which is to get Canute out of the way and to prevent anyone from taking Canute from him. I love that we do get to see a bit more of the complexity of Askeladd in terms of he's saying that he's getting too old for Artorias to return. He can't wait for this king to heal of his wounds and come back from Avalon. So in the meantime, he needs to do what his mother has asked him to do, which is to serve a king. You know, we get to see a bit of a flashback to Askeladd and his mother, where his mother is basically saying that Artorias will one day return and that he will free us from our suffering. He's the true king and a warrior, and that Askeladd should become his staff, become his sword, and to essentially serve and protect and to shield. So essentially, Askeladd is saying, well, I'm getting old. Artorias has not returned, and I don't think he is going to return. So therefore, I am going to put my cards and my weight behind Canute. And I think possibly that could be to do with the fact that maybe he recognizes some of these kind, benevolent characteristics in Canute, that Canute has the potential to become an Artorias-like figure. So I think that's why he's so sort of intent on ensuring that Canute is protected. We thought it may only be for his own gain, and I mean, part of it probably is. If he can get Canute to become a king, the gifts that will come with that and the power and privilege associated is immense. But I think as well it is because he feels that he owes this to his mother. This is a memory that lingers on within him. He knows that he has to do what he can to make her proud. And if that's to serve a king to become his staff and his sword, then he needs to find one to serve sooner or later. And Artorias is not coming back from Avalon, but Canute is on hand to become a king. So I think him putting his weight behind Canute is a recognition that he doesn't solely think he's weak, that there is something within Canute that he wants to bring out and for it to shine because he thinks he has potential to be a great king. And I think we may not necessarily see it now, but I think Asgard isn't solely doing this for power and privilege. I think that is an aspect of it, of course. But I think the other aspect is this reminiscence of his mother's words of serving a king, of being the staff and the sword, and of someone who was kind and brave and who was a warrior. And Canute is kind and has the opportunity to be brave. So I think he sees that potential and knows that his time is running out as he's getting older. So he needs to hurry up and back a king at some point, and Canute is the king that he's willing to back and follow, especially because it will give him an opportunity to play things how he wishes to play them because Canute is still young. I do love that Thorkill recognizes Askeladd almost as a warrior in the same sense as him, in that he's like, yeah, everyone except for Askeladd can die because they all betrayed Askeladd. To him, that's cowardly. They also were getting outdone by a single man. So he finds Askeladd incredibly fascinating and also thinks he's smart. So he probably wants to get to interact with him a little bit more. That was obviously before Thorfinn came along and was like, I'm going to duel you for him because he's my catch. And if anyone's going to kill Askeladd, it's me. But I think that recognition between the two of them is there's a bit of admiration. It's like warriors recognizing warriors, like how Thorkill recognizes Thorfinn as a warrior, as the last in a long line of warriors. But it's like certain characteristics are what stands out to Thorkill, and they're worthy of being admired to the point that he doesn't want him to be killed unnecessarily. I do love that they gave Askeladd's men that betrayed him a chance to actually fight and to die an honorable death, because it is such a big cultural thing, which is to die with honor. If they died as cowards, they wouldn't have a chance of going to Valhalla. I mean, they probably won't go to Valhalla anyway because the Valkyries only pick the strongest, and half go to Freya's and half goes to Valhalla with Odin, and the rest go to Hell. But they recognize the cultural significance enough that it's pick up your weapons and we're going to give you this opportunity to at least die honorably rather than as cowards. I think Thorkill was kind of a bit like, you guys are assholes for doing that, but at the same time, Thorkill changes sides all the time, so I don't think Thorkill really cares too much about loyalty because he chops and chooses on which side he's going to fight with, just dependent on whether he thinks one side would be more of a challenge than the other, you know? So I don't think it's necessarily the loyalty, but more the cowardliness of it, more the unwilling to fight and to die with honor that kind of irks him the most, not necessarily the loyalty aspect. I think that's all I want to say for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this react, please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment below to help boost this video into the algorithm. Until next episode, bye!